And now we have phones. You're the only one who's looking at it. So if you're willing to turn your screen at any time to anybody, you're really the same person. You're not changing. But if you have to say, oh, hold on a second, let me turn off some apps here. You turn off some apps and then you give the phone. It might be like you're hiding something that you don't want the public. I'm not talking about private things. I mean, you are entitled and you should, protect your privacy. But when it comes down to, I've attended recently a lecture, or actually a seminar about pornography and addiction to pornography. And I was really happy to see how many people came out and talked about it, that they have this problem, an addiction to pornography. And it is the same for men and women. So this is a problem across both genders. And these phones, they admitted that these phones kind of helps them to keep it to themselves. So if you have a child has a phone, check it. Okay? Teach them how to be responsible and lead their lives at a younger age, to be open and transparent with you. Talk to your children about the things that could go wrong and see how they would, address it. How would they handle such things? I've seen few pop-ups about gambling. It happened about a few months back, and I was surprised. I do have a good security and filtering all that stuff, but it pop up a gambling offer gambling online now. So, it could be anything. Could be absolutely anything. Other scholars define sincerity to be not to ask for anyone to witness your actions except Allah alone, and that there is no one will reward except Him alone. So this is mainly, when we do good things, we don't need to take someone to witness. It's like, see, I've done it. See, people say I'm poor, I'm stingy. You see, I've done it. I've donated 2,000 ringgit. So you be a witness on the Day of Judgment. You don't want him to be a witness on the Day of Judgment. Allah is sufficient. Allah is sufficient. So some people feel that it's really important to know what other people think of them. Again, if you have this pure intention towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything is below that relationship, because that sincerity is pure. Just like fasting. Fasting is a form of sincerity. Fasting, nobody knows that you're fasting. You can stop eating in front of them, but you can get in a car and eat your sandwich and you just walk away, or drink, take a sip, nobody can see. So fasting is a sign of sincerity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's why He said He rewards. Fasting is the only, it's one of the, I can say now, the hadith says it's the only worship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself rewards us for it, because it comes down to sincerity. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about the commandments of us. I might interpret this sincerity with the intention. And I did start talking about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about intentions, but I didn't say the hadith. The hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, which goes along to what this verse is saying in the Quran. The hadith is saying that, verily, surely, that all actions are by niyyah, right? By intention. All actions are by nothing but intention. So you cannot do anything without intention. We cannot do anything without intention. So when I moved, just right now, right? I moved this microphone here. I had an intention for that. So small movement, I had an intention of that. I had an intention to get this microphone closer to me. Did I say, wait, I need to make intention. I am intending to move this microphone here for the sake of Allah so people can hear me. I didn't say that. But the intention is that. Can you imagine our lives to verbalize the intentions that we do? Because this hadith is saying all actions are nothing but with intention. Whether you're Muslim, non-Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ is talking about in general. All actions. So if we were to verbalize our actions, we're not going to be able to, have an easy life. And having selectively say or verbalize it in certain situations and not verbalize it in other situations, that's uncalled for, because that's never been done before. That's an innovation, or it's a created thought. It was never established at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So the hadith also continues as it says that it was talking about the intentions of those who migrated with the Prophet ﷺ. So those who migrated, so the Prophet ﷺ is explaining, those who migrated for the sake of Allah, then their migration is for the sake of Allah. Sorry, let me say it exactly how it said. The Prophet ﷺ said, those who migrated for the sake of Allah and His Messenger, they migrated for the sake of Allah and His Messenger. And those who migrated from where? From Mecca to Medina, right? That's the migration after the Meccans started to persecute and punish the Muslims in Mecca. So they migrated after the commandment came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to migrate, or the permission to migrate. It was not a commandment, it was a permission. And then they migrated. So some of the Muslims migrated for the sake of Allah, to protect Islam, to be with Allah, with the Prophet ﷺ. So their migration was only purely to fulfill the objective of the migration, which is to protect Islam and the message. Some migrated to get a better income source, right, from Medina. Some of them they migrated with the intention to marry. So the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever migrated to get married, then his migration was to get married. So that's his reward, his marriage. But what the hadith is saying is that the best amongst them, the best rewarded amongst them, are those who had the intention to migrate for Allah and His Messenger. So that's why sincerity and intention, they go side by side, and they go actually together. They're one and the same almost, pretty much. So for us to be sincere about what we do, shouldn't our action be accepted? If I am sincere about my actions and I have the right intention, shouldn't I be rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? Even if it was wrong? Jazakallah khair. Should be according to the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. So there are conditions. 2 conditions for the acceptance and the reward of our actions and what we say. First, it needs to have the best level of sincerity, right? Ikhlas, the highest level of ikhlas, to the best of our ability. We don't want to overburden ourselves. Allah knows what we can and what we cannot do. So we need to have this pure sincerity or pure relationship or pure intention towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in what we do. That's number 1. Number 2, we also need to strive to make it correct. By making it or striving to make it correct, don't assume. You can assume if you have someone teaching you in a session, in a lecture. You can make mistakes because in front of the teacher he can correct you. And if he doesn't correct you, verify. validate. Is this correct? So that way you make sure that's striving. It might not feel easy to kind of like have someone to judge your action, but you're doing it for the sake of Allah, then this uneasy should be away. Feeling uneasy to go out of your comfort zone for the sake of Allah should be an easy task, because you're not doing it for yourself, you're not doing it for others, you're doing it for the sake of Allah. You are becoming a better worshipper. You are becoming a better slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by getting yourself out of the comfort zone. So you're asking questions. Shaykh, I did this last night. I'm not really sure. Was it correct or not? Is it embarrassing to put yourself out that you might have done something really bad or something wrong? Not bad, but wrong. It is. But if you're doing it for the sake of Allah, this feeling of self-protection and ego that we have should be aside, because we are doing it for the sake of Allah. We can't expose ourselves in front of our teacher. If you don't feel comfortable exposing to other, in front of other people, then do it with the teacher alone. But you need to do that. You need to verify what you're doing is correct, because that is the second condition for our actions to be accepted, if it's done correctly. Right? So the conditions of acceptance of our actions, it needs to be most sincere and it needs to be most correct. Again, to the best of your ability. And you need to be honest with yourself in what you can and cannot do. Any questions so far? We've got about 30 minutes. So when we go to a session or a lecture or a talk or a class about Islam that talks about and teaches about Islam, we need to have the right intention. Seeking knowledge alone is not enough. We need to seek knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being here, present, is not enough. You need to have that intention to be a better self, to improve yourself. So a lot of us, or many of us, we focus on what we're getting. What am I going to get? Right? What am I going to benefit? But actually, sincerity helps us to focus on who we will become, who we are becoming. Because that is the distinction between focusing on what we do versus on who we are or who we become. Because if this knowledge doesn't improve you on how you become, then there's more work you need to do. You need to bring this knowledge into your life to become a better person, a better worshipper. Becoming is different than getting. You can get but don't do anything with it. You can learn and learn but you're not doing anything with it. You're still the same person as yesterday. We're still the same people as last year. But if we're not becoming someone better, we're not benefiting really. So we might have the intentions correct. We might be doing the right thing, but it's not impacting us. We're not allowing it to make a difference in us. Okay, so that's why when we want to learn something new, we need to be open to change. And when we change, I'm not changing to please the brother or my wife or my son. I'm changing because I want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that a good reason for it? Of course. But if I'm learning something and I was like, no, that's kind of like, it's not how I was raised. I've seen that a few times. So I've seen that more than actually a few times. People sometimes have some really strange answers, and when it comes down to worshipping, it comes down to doing things according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, they say that's not how my parents did it. That's not how it's gonna put me in a weird position with my family if I did that. And you see, when you do these little examples and these kind of thoughts, if you take them to extreme, you'll know exactly what I mean. The extreme example of this is you have a revert, a Muslim, a new Muslim. Any new Muslim here? One new Muslim like within a year. No, okay. I think that was yesterday's session. So new Muslims have that dilemma or dissonance with their family. They do things not different from how their family brought them or how the tradition is. It's maybe the opposite in many ways. Right? So they are striving a lot more than anyone else because they are becoming a Muslim. They're not just practicing Islam. See, that's why I don't like the word, are you practicing? Are you becoming a Muslim? Are you a Muslim? It's different. I mean, you can practice Islam, but how many times we see people in masjids and all that, and then we end up, Allahumma, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. We hear, or they confess of doing something really bad. So they are practicing Muslims, they are doing Islam, but they're not becoming Muslims. So when the people become Muslims, they revert to Islam, they become Muslim, they become a different person. They become a different person. When they become a Muslim, that's when the gap changes between them and the relationship that they have around them. So if they are doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will continue and they will manage that gap. They will manage the problems that they might be facing at home. The same thing what we do when we learn something new, right, from trusted sources, and it's different than what other people that we are usually with, like family and relatives and friends, and so we just need to share that knowledge. If they don't accept it, that's fine. I mean, we only can share the knowledge. If they don't accept it, it's on them. But that pressure should not take away why we did it in the first place. So if you come here for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you learn something new, and that something new caused friction between you and someone you love and someone you have a relationship with, parents, son, daughters, brothers, sisters, friends, colleagues at work, it could be anybody, then don't focus on the relationship. Don't put the relationship higher than your intention. Put the intention there. But keep the relationship for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That person might change, might come to a realization of the wrong things that they're doing. For example, I can't think of an example. What's an example? Anybody experienced something like that? I would rather use your example than my example. Anybody can share an experience where they learned something new and they shared it with their circle of people and they found rejection and that put them in an odd situation. You don't have to say names or who these people are related to if you don't feel comfortable. Oh, mashallah, nobody has. Yes, brother. Oh, subhanallah. Subhanallah. So that's such a simple, mandatory action that we're supposed to do is pray in jama'ah. And the brother was saying, in case if you didn't hear him, he was saying that he had childhood friends, and when he started to go to the masjid and pray with the jama'ah, they started looking at him differently. You want to share how old were you maybe? Or is that you were before? How old were you? A teenager. 27 years old. Subhanallah. Peer pressure at 7 is even higher than teenagers, I feel sometimes. I can imagine. Yeah. So that's not even like something wrong or correction. This is something that we all have to do. So he just started doing it and he felt this change. So him focusing on why he did it in the first place, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he didn't do it to please anybody. He went on and continued with that. He didn't allow the environment to control him, but he went on and focused on that sincere intention that he had, why he was going to the masjid. Jazakallah khair for the share, brother. Also, sometimes we see people, okay, so I don't want to, just from the sunnah is to also to share who we are so we know each other. So in the US, I've experienced many situations, and here as well, I've seen situations where people come to sessions of knowledge, majlis of ilm, session or gathering of knowledge, for a purpose in their heart. They're there, but they're either looking for a wife or she's looking for a husband. It's a social gathering. Some look for someone to borrow money from. I've seen that a lot. I've seen non-Muslims become Muslims so they can get a certificate when they go to Iraq. If they were captured, they show that they're Muslims. I've seen intentions create, but those things don't happen until after the fact, because when they are mixed with us, we don't know what their intention is, but later on we find out that this person has stopped coming, or this person is no longer interested in Islam, right? Their intention was not really for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were not seeking knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They wanted to find someone to borrow money from, or they wanted money from the masjid, from the center. They wanted money from the community. Sometimes we give them money and then they stop coming, and we give them like 2 months and they come back and they ask for more money. So what happened to the money before? So this, I specifically say this for two reasons. If we do this for reasons other than seeking knowledge for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to work on ourselves. We need to come here to become a better person, to become a better Muslim. And if you are already doing that, be aware of people might have these kind of intentions. Might not be here, might be in a different session that you're in, seeking knowledge, but someone come to you and asking for money or asking for a favor or whatever the case might be. You need to be careful. If they are in a certain setting, it doesn't mean that they belong to that setting for, they might be coming for just a short while. But it's really great to see the faces repeating here. I've seen pretty much 90% of the faces are I've seen before, but I haven't been coming here a lot, so I'm sure I'm missing few. But the idea is not only to focus on ourselves, being sincere, also to protect ourselves from those who are not sincere. They can be opportunists. They see an opportunity to become part of the community for a short while, and they become friends, socializing with people, and then I'm having difficult times. Can you help me here? Can you help me there? I need a car. Can I borrow your car for a couple of hours? You see me in the masjid. I come to the masjid a lot. I come here a lot. Everybody knows me. They have a goal. They have an intention. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all. So therefore, focusing on us, ourselves, having the right intention is very important. At the same time, we need to also be aware that others might not be sincere or might also striving to become, and they are here for reasons that are personal. So we need to also manage that very well. So I say that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because I've seen many people taken advantage of. They're really nice. They want to help the other Muslim. And if you choose to do that, that's your choice. But I learned the hard way in the US, I never give money. Anybody wants help with money, I tell them, I go buy your food right now. Let's go have lunch together. I'll buy you food and your family. Once I gave a $5, I thought it was a sadaqah. He took it. One person took it and bought cigarettes with it. And the other person bought alcohol with it. So I don't want to support that. So from that point I was like, you know what, it's best to give a commodity, give rice, give food, but I don't want to give money. And that's the hikmah of the Prophet ﷺ when it comes down to Eid al-Fitr. You know, Zakat al-Fitr, the sadaqah or the zakah around the Eid that comes after Ramadan. It's called Eid al-Fitr, right? So there is zakat that is associated. This is sunnah. So the sunnah is to give a commodity, rice, grains, some sort. I know there is a fatwa that you can give money, but I don't really support that fatwa. It is a fatwa. I respect it. I don't practice that fatwa. I personally, I always recommend to give a commodity: rice, grains, dates, what you call it, the raisins. These are all allowed. I think that's to the best of my knowledge. Correct me. I mean, please look into that. But I could be wrong. So these are accepted Zakat al-Fitr. I was in Dubai many years back, and it was really interesting how the culture does things. People would go to the masjid for the salat al-Eid, right? 8 o'clock, takbir, 8:30 salah, right? That's a standard now. So people who give the zakah, they bring the rice or the grains and they bring it and they put it outside the door of the masjid, outside, covered. Those who need it, on the way out, they pick it up and go. And everybody picks what they want, or what they need. They don't like overload themselves and get a car, bring it in, and let's load the car. No, they don't do that. But everybody, it's like very quietly done. You know, everybody's doing it openly, and everybody's hugging the poor and the rich and the needy and those who are in need. Sorry, not needy, but those who are in need and those who are giving. They are one community, and it was really, I thought that was quite interesting how they did that. But again, that's a cultural thing. You know, we don't have to do that. But that's why I always highly recommend is that when I give sadaqah, I tend to give more on the food or commodity, so it minimizes the risk, the risk or the damage that could be that would allow that money to be used for bad things. I'm not accounted for them really buying cigarettes, or because I didn't know. It's not my fault. I mean, it's not my sin that they bought the cigarettes or the alcohol. But I feel I could have done a better job to help them. It's just like a feel of responsibility more than guilty, really. So that's why, I mean, sincerity, as I mentioned, it goes both ways. Us to work on ourselves to be sincere, and also to be aware of those who are not sincere that might be taking advantage of us. And at the same time, encourage others. You know, if you feel sincere, encourage others to become sincere. And you also ask for encouragement for others to be sincere. You know, what's up? Support each other. Let's go. You know, just remind each other why you're doing it. And you will be always coming here, inshallah, for the right reasons. And one way I found out very important is when we want to support, when we want the support from others, we share with them why we're doing it. You know, I mean, I wish that that everybody would talk to each other, in sessions, like share with each other, like, why are you here? Well, first of all, the first thing you need to do, you need to know why you are here, or why you attend these classes. What is it that you want? Why coming here is important for you. And once that is clear to you, then share it, because that person will remind you, or should, or needs to, or maybe you should ask that person to remind you about these things, why you're doing it. And maybe you do the same thing for the other person. So that way you're always reminded, internally, reminding yourself, and externally, if somebody's seeing you not coming to these sessions, you're not consistent, or you're not, we also help ourselves in kind of becoming a better person. Always have we need to be always self-aware of where we were and how we're progressing and where we're moving towards, right? Any questions on that? Yes, brother. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I'm sorry, I don't hear you. Is there like a microphone? Oh, jazakallah khair, brother. I thought I heard the first thing you said, but then I couldn't. The fan is starting to...
Excuse me.
Yes,
Yeah,
brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
We see in the restaurants, quite often there will be a blind person will be followed by someone else and asking for money.
Right.
And what do you suggest? We should ask them to drink together, or we should not give it at all?
Well, for those, when I see them, I buy them the whatchamacallit, the napkins or the Kleenex that they have. The tissues, I think, yeah. I buy that. But if they come in, and because I see it as they're not begging. Honestly, I see it as they're selling, because they're not asking for money. They're giving you something. You're interested to buy it, buy it. If you're not interested, don't buy it. I buy it. And I always I want that. I was like, I want that. Because I am giving a ringgit or whatever they want, like 2 ringgit or whatever they want. But if somebody comes to me, and I've had that in Penang, and I've had it here also when I was in Shah Alam, people come to me at the restaurant asking for money. Young children or even adults or big adults. Turn out to be Shia, by the way, but that's a different lecture. I said to them, they said they are in need, and they had papers and all these pictures of their making this great center, I don't know where. And they have very nice logos that I thought looked like government logos. I really don't know government logos. I'm not from here. So I was suspicious, because in the picture, it showed children standing on dirt. So we need to be very, when we act, when it comes down to really acting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to do our part and really, kind of question. We cannot take people for granted that, oh, they're all nice, they're like you. No, it's not like that. Inshallah, inshallah, we'll all be like that. But the fact of the matter today, many people manipulate Islam, or manipulate people in the name of Islam, or they abuse Islam for their own gain. So this brother was showing you pictures. So I had a conversation with him. I spent like 15 minutes talking to him about his project. So he showed me pictures, and I noticed in the pictures there were children. True, there were children in the picture, and it looked like a building in behind them, and they were standing on dirt. Their feet were covered with dirt. His sandals and his feet were clean. Were absolutely clean. I said, how do you know these children? How do you know this school? He said, oh, we work there, we help them, and we go there. And I was like, if you help them, your shoes wouldn't be clean that way. There was some dirt would be on those shoes. To me, that was a red flag. So you need to investigate. You need to ask the people questions. I've seen people asking for money because of some wounds in their arm, right, or their leg. I mean, I've seen the person with the same wound for like a year and a half. So once I saw him recently, I said, I've seen you before. So you are surviving fine. Why do you need to go to see a medical? Whatever you have in your arm hasn't changed. So I challenged him with that. He just walked away. He didn't even bother to explain. He had a paper, the same paper. I swear, I saw this person in 2 different locations. I really don't know if he's truly, maybe he was cured and he came back. I really don't know. But I asked the person specific questions so I can make sure that I'm helping him. If they really, if I am convinced that they really need the money, I take them and give them for food. So when the two adults, when I was talking to them, and I wasn't convinced about their project, I said, listen, I'm not going to give you a penny, but I can buy you lunch. They said, okay. So I took them, I bought them lunch, and they walked away. So in my mind, I felt like even if they were con artists, that's on them, it's not on me. But it was a chance for me to make sadaqah, to have a sadaqah. The Prophet Ibrahim ﷺ, when he was making food for one of his guests, he found out that he doesn't believe in Allah. He rejected the message. Then he stopped giving him the food. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala corrected that action. That behavior is unacceptable. You need to do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for me, it was an opportunity that I can feed them. I don't want to give them money. I don't know what they're going to use the money for. And so instead, I like an opportunity for me to make. So okay, I'll just buy them food, and I did. They were happy, and they left. I didn't sit with them, of course. We don't know each other. So again, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that you are sincere. Okay, so this session is not only just for you. It's also to be, aware that others that might not be sincere. Okay, so be aware of people that might use the situation you're in or the environment that you both are in the same environment or experiencing the same thing many times. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. And we need to also assume good about the other person. We don't want to be cynical about, thinking people are, being cynical about what they're doing. And we don't need to treat them with doubts. And that's not what I'm asking for. What I'm asking is just, be friendly. Be concerned about what they're asking for. Just find out, really, what is it? Why now? Right? They've seen them for a while. What happened? Talk to them. What happened to your money then? Why you want the money now? And if it doesn't, and you ask a few questions, and if they don't tie together, then it's a red flag. You need to be careful. That's all I'm saying. So sincerity is a very important thing. But some people don't bother. They say, I'm doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I don't care if these people don't even return my money for me. And that's also fine. If they're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then whatever they do it for, then if that person is abusing the relationship, it's on the other person. So the person who's giving the money, he's getting the reward that he's doing it for the sake of Allah. He's not expecting anything in return, which we don't. I mean, when we investigate, we're not really investigating to get something in return, but we are making sure that this person is getting the right help. He might be there for money, but maybe he needs a little bit help on focusing what is more important in life. Learning and becoming a better person is much more important than having a $10,000 loan that you're not going to pay, or you're not planning to pay, or 100,000 or 1 million. I mean, it really doesn't matter. Some people really they come to events and they look for partners and business partners and all that. They think it's an opportunity to socialize. Well, if they do that, then that's the intention why they're doing it. They are getting rewards for that intention. Okay? So to summarize really quickly is that when somebody is asking for help, we don't want to think negative of them. We just need to do our part to investigate. And if you feel like you don't need to, and you just want to do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's up to you. I mean, that's being sincere. But it's not more or less sincere than asking questions. I just wanted to clarify that. So you can still ask questions to clarify. And you can still ask questions for the person to share, why and think about what they're asking for. And you can also reject helping someone for the sake of Allah. So it's not always doing. So you can reject. Absolutely. Yep. 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 You get your rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you're doing the right thing. You're doing sadaqah the right way. Okay, you're doing your best in investigating. You might not feel comfortable. Some people might not feel comfortable addressing or asking the person for questions. They just want to give good deeds. So you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get the rewards. That's not the issue. Yeah, that's the thing. Well, the thing is that when the problems that I faced is that people come to the lectures for the right intentions. They get abused. They get a loan, a promise that I'll pay you in 2 months. They never get paid. I mean, I don't mean, when I said never get paid, not delayed, but never get paid. That's what we deal with. And the person who comes to our class sincerely learning, he stops coming from to our class. because they don't want to see the other person. They don't want to be hurt again. They don't want to be abused again. If the management, I'm not part of the management of this center, but if the management doesn't know, how can they help? So what have we done in the US? We encouraged everybody to bring the person to the office. I don't know how the management here handles it. I don't want to speak on their behalf. But in the US, what we did is that we told everybody, if anybody comes to ask for help, please come and with him and come to our office. We will work with both of you. So we have witnesses. We have we would recommend if that person had previous incidences, we would know because people come always to us complain. Oh, so and so took money. Can you guys call him? Like, well, we don't have contacts for everybody. We don't have to. But again, it's an unfortunate thing. But we can protect ourselves. So I guess what I was trying to say is that saying yes, if you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He promised you to pay you back money, and He didn't, then remember that you did it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second option, so that's the first option. I repeat the first option. Someone come and ask for a favor, money or whatever the case might be, borrow something, car or a knife, I don't know, and didn't return it back, didn't pay you back. You're upset. You're really expecting that to have that thing back, but you're not getting it. So, first thing you need to remember that you've done it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, you're going through hardship, maybe for getting that money. Maybe that's the only money you had, and you just did it for the goodness in your heart that you wanted to help that person. But that person is not giving you back. So this is something that you would have to work with. So as long, again, you did it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was not a pleasant experience, right? You feel cheated. Then there's not much you can do about getting back your money. So you need to accept that fact. And that's the reality of it. You just need to accept it and move on. You can come and talk. You can talk to the person. You can try to convince them. But if you didn't take his name, if you don't know the person, if you don't know his number, your chances to get back your money is slim to none, unless you run into that person somewhere. So the other option is do your homework. Ask about that person. Because if you're lending someone money, that's a relationship that you are establishing. Just like marriage. And sometimes it surprises me how some parents don't do their job asking about the man's background. They didn't do a good job asking about the man's background. They feel, I've heard that several times, they feel shy about asking specific questions about that person. But then they find out that this person is abusive or alcoholic or have different problems, maybe pornography, whatever the case might be. And the same thing for the husband also, to check on the future wife. If they don't know each other from before, they need to know the wife and her family. So when you establish a relationship, you need to do your homework. Even if it takes months, you need to do your homework. So when you're lending money to someone, you are establishing a relationship. But when you're giving money, that's no relationship. You're giving it khalas. There is nothing there. Just give it. But then when you're lending money, there's a relationship. At least in my book. That's how I see it. Because you're going to see that person again. He might be late or she might be late. You need to talk to them. You need to remind them. They're going to see you again to pay you. You're going to see them probably in the community. It's a relationship at a different level. So if you see someone in here, for example, and ask you for money, so you have two relationships with this person. Relationship in the class and a relationship on financials related to borrowing money. So these two are two different relationships. not managing one well, or not being successful in the financial one, it'll impact the other one. It'll impact your relationship with the person in the community, right? So that's why that person who borrowed the money might just never show up again. And then if you don't have his phone number and his name and his IC number and all that stuff, good luck getting a penny back. So that's why I encourage you. You are sincere. You are a good person. Don't assume that everybody is the same thing. Do your homework. Don't shy away from protecting yourself, protecting your wealth, and protecting your family for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So does that answer your question? So first, we do it and just bear the consequences. And it's not going to be an easy ride if you don't have a lot of money to spare. The second is you do your homework. Ask, talk, share information, bring the person to the area or the leader of the community. Ask them, so and so asked me for money. What do you think? If they know, they would tell you. They have to tell you. And that's the other thing. When people go ask, for example, when parents do their homework, going back to the example of giving their daughter to marriage, when the parents do their homework about marrying someone else, they go ask. The person is being asked, and I also heard that, they're shy telling the bad things about that person. They think it's ghiba. What's ghiba? Ghiba is saying bad things about your brother or your sister when they're not present. Yeah, fitna. No, if somebody's asking you about so-and-so, because I'm making business with them, I'm lending him money, I'm marrying him my daughter, it is an obligation, it is a must on you to tell exactly what you know. Because you're not exposing that person. You're just saying it exactly how you know it. Like for example, in the US, two roommates. One was asked about his roommate because the father wanted to wed him. And this is the roommate is telling me this. The father wants to wed his friend, his daughter. And we found out that this brother never became a Muslim. He was struggling, right? So it was a bad experience. And then the fathers talked to and then the roommate, the friend, came out, and he's like, I felt really weird telling you about my friend's bad habits. Yeah, he was sleeping around, he was drinking, but we thought that once he get married, he'll stop. So that's an assumption on his part. But when somebody comes and asks you about so-and-so, and you say, yeah, he's good, they'll take your word because they see you as being close to him. You know them and you know him more than the father would ever know that person. But if you don't know him, also don't say like, yeah, he's good. No, you explain. I worked with him on a couple of projects. My relationship with him was more professional. I really didn't see anything beyond that. During my experience with him, you need to be clear. Don't just say, yeah, he's good. No, you need to explain your relationship with that person to the person who's asking. So the same thing, if somebody's asking you about someone asking for money or loan from you, and you go to this brother, he's like, this brother is asking me for a big loan, $20,000. And I was wondering, do you know, well, before I even tell you the money, I was wondering, if you know this brother. And you would say, yeah, I know him. He's a good guy. I see him in the masjid. He always prays the Fajr. He comes for, Taraweeh. Oh, he's the last person to leave. He's a good brother. I said, okay, so here is the situation. He's asking me for a loan for $20,000 because I'm thinking to get into partnership with him. That should raise a flag if there's a problem with that person. So he's a good Muslim, right? Focus on the positive. But I'm asking you for a specific experience that I'm going to be having with this person. Sorry, I'm not. I don't know this brother. Just right and left kind of thing. So he would tell me, okay, wait a minute. For this brother, I know when it comes down to business, he's this. When it comes down to money, he is this. How do you know that? Oh, I've worked with him, for example. He would need to tell me. Where does he come up with that? Maybe he has a grudge on that person, he wants to hurt him. Maybe he's competing with his business. He doesn't want him to succeed. So you need to also validate the information you're getting from this person you're asking. So therefore you validate. What makes you say that? Help me understand. And then they would tell you specific examples. If they tell you, oh, that's what I heard, then it's 50-50. Don't make a decision. Ask more. And if you're not 100% or close to 100% confident that this is a good relationship to start with this brother, don't go for it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you are protecting yourself, your wealth, your family for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you don't have money, you are a burden on the community. If your family doesn't have money, you are a burden on the community. By keeping yourself and your family from asking from people or asking help from people, you are helping yourself and your family for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't underestimate your responsibility toward yourself and your family. Okay? So we can say no for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any questions on that? Does that clarify the situation? So option number 1, we do it, we just give it, we don't expect anything. Just give it away. Don't expect to be paid back. And make that clear. It's like, you know what? I'll just give it to you as a sadaqah. Don't worry about it. You put the brother in a relief because this is highly rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is, the intention is, again, you don't know the specifics, but it's really good to have a good practice on why we're using that money for. What did they need the money for? Because if they are using it for drugs, you're not responsible, but you need to help the person in a different way. Right? You become responsible as part of the community. You want to help the person in a different way. If you're not convinced why he's using the money for, you need to get a comfort, that he's not harming himself unknowingly. He might be getting into a business with a person that you might know that he's no good or his business is no good. It's like, wait a minute, you're taking this money to take partnership with that person. I know that person. I've worked with that person. Let's talk about that. So you're helping him in a different way. You understand? You become his helper, his advisor, not just money and walk away. We are responsible within this community. The Prophet ﷺ said each one of us is responsible for themselves, for their family, right? And the wife is responsible for her family and her husband and her house, and her husband's house, and the children are responsible for themselves and so the whole community is responsible for the community, right? So we don't want. It's not like, oh, I gave him the money and walk away. Oh, it's his fault. Well, you should have done your homework. You should have validated. That's what I felt when I gave that money and the person went and bought alcohol with it. I felt, I should have been more responsible towards the family. I should have been more caring for that person. He's going to harm himself. And that's what I feel that we need to do as a community. So option number 1, you give the money, you validate to the best of your knowledge, and then you walk away. Or give the money and don't do any homework, and bear the consequences because it's a 50-50. It's quite high risky. Number 3 option is to do your homework. Assess the situation. Understand the urgency. Why now? Why is it so urgent? Why do I need to give you the money now? Why can I not wait for next month? Oh, rent, this, that. Okay. That's fine. Let's talk about this. I mean, you don't react. Think thoroughly and make a decision clearly. Number 4, I had a number 4. I can't think of it right now. Any questions or comments? Yes, sister. The microphone is where?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
The question is regarding is on intentions with regards to reward from Allah for oneself. Let me just give you an example. Let's say if I receive news of a person who is sick, and then I feel obliged to visit her because my main intention is to receive a reward from Allah.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that be like a selfish reason for oneself? And is it wrong to have this kind of feeling? But of course, you're also doing it for the sake of Allah.
What do you mean by for the self?
You see,
Can you help
when
me
you want to visit that person, you first of all you think that, oh, I will visit this person because I'll get rewarded by Allah. Not the main intention is not because you're concerned about that person. I mean, I'm just hypothetically saying it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you, I understand your question is, can we do good things for the intention of getting rewards? Yeah. And would that be considered sincere? Is that the question?
You are sincere, but you just want the reward from Allah.
Yeah. And what's the problem with doing that?
Is that an act of selfishness?
Is that an act of selfishness? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when it comes down to doing right and good deeds, hasten to it for your own good. Right? Because you're doing it for the rewards. Where are you getting the rewards from? People acknowledgement? Being on CNN? Being on a star? No. You're doing it to get the rewards from where? From your boss? A certificate? No. You're doing it for the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, you need to be selfish. Go get more. We got to be counted. Every one of these, when it comes down to reward, be selfish. That's why, and you see, in the masjids, sometimes it boggles me. In my mind, I was like, you have an opportunity to do something and to advance yourself, but people will hesitate and they tell others to advance. Like when you have an open gap in the salah, in the line in front of you, I saw you raising your hand. I'll get to you inshallah in a little bit. So people kind of like line up and the gap opens, and in the second line, you see people telling the other person, brother, go. But you're in front of the opening. Advancing in the salah, in the line, that's a getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a better position. You don't let other people to come in front of you. So no, when it comes down to good deeds, getting closer to Allah, be the first. People walk in the masjid and they sit in the back. I don't understand that. I know it's a cultural thing. But to me, I see the first line, the best, that's what the hadith said. The best line for men is the first. But I see men sitting in the back where the women sit, like at the divider where the women sit. To me, I don't understand that. That's not humble. When it comes down to ibadah, you need to be number one. You need to be like a capitalist when it comes down to money. I don't know if there's a word for it, but you need to be like a rewardist. Yeah, you need to really focus on yourself, getting that reward. Why? Because if you do it first, people follow you. You get rewarded for your actions, and you get rewarded for the actions that they followed you on. So you're absolutely not selfish. Clear in my mind and clear in the books of the scholars, they explain that very clearly. When you're doing it for the sake of Allah. No, she said she's being sincere. She said she's. That is. But that's even better. Doing it for the reward is better than caring for that person, because you might be, that person ripped you off for 20,000, and that's where you found that person. He ripped you off for 20,000 last year, and he never paid you 20,000 last year. And today you heard that he's in the hospital. If you're going to the hospital telling him, I want my money, give me 20,000, then you're not doing it for the sake of Allah. If you're going to visit him purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not doing it for the person to make him feel better, because you might not like that person. But he's a Muslim, he has rights on you. So you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless that he ripped you off. So that is, you're doing it for the rewards. In the US, we had in the old days, we didn't have WhatsApp, and we had phones with small screens and texts. And we had a group of brothers, when we hear about, on Mondays and Thursdays specifically, when we hear about, we called ourselves, or we used to call ourselves the Fajr Pack, the people who usually go to Fajr Salah. So we tell each other, if you hear about a burial, a janazah, SMS everybody or email everybody. Because Mondays and Thursdays we fast, we pray Jama'ah, we're only missing the sadaqah and the the janazah. So we hasten to go to the janazah. And when somebody doesn't tell us, we get upset. It's like, how come you didn't tell me, guys? You all knew, but I didn't. It's like, oh, we didn't, we thought so and so, like, but you know, it happens. But you need to be upset when you miss the opportunity of making reward. I mean, I'm happy when I hear someone was in the hospital and left, but I feel sad that I didn't go and visit it to get the reward. That is for the sake of Allah. That is purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you might go there and the person already checked out. You get the reward. Done. Or the person might die. Well, just stick around, you've beaten janazah, even higher rewards. It is. It is a higher reward to be in janazah. Okay, so when it comes down to intentions, can I get to her question and I'll get back to this one. Yes, sister.
I just would like to ask about, let's say, I posting in Facebook, let's say, because certain of our friends are doing charity, we are inviting people to come and might be can donate some money. But there is other people say that I'm trying to showing off or what, because but my niyat is only to help other people, it's not showing off, because might be there is a certain friends who like to join this kind of charity, they have no any contact or what, that's why we are posting in the Facebook or Instagram. Is there any sinful or anything?
Okay, so what I'm understanding from you is that you're posting an event on Facebook to collect donations, to collect money.
It's a kindness. That means
out of kindness to help others.
Yes, yes.
And people are asking, they're telling you you are not being sincere by allowing it. Okay, so when these people come and talk to me like that, I become sarcastic. So what I ask these people, okay, I say, we are planning to raise 20,000. I don't know why I'm stuck on 20,000, but it's a good number. 20,000 ringgit. Would you pay for it? If you pay for it, I will not put this on Facebook. Because there are people who sit and do nothing but criticize. Your objective is to do what? 20,000 to help the needy, to help people. And this person is like, oh, when you put it on Facebook, maybe you're not being sincere, you're bragging, you're showing off. I was like, okay, I'm really happy you told me that. I will not put it on Facebook. Can you give me 20,000? That's how I would address it, because that's sarcasm. But to me, I don't know how else to address it. Because I am clear in my heart, I'm not doing it for that. That's his interpretation, her interpretation, it's on them. I don't need to convince them that I'm not. I mean, how am I going to tell them my heart is really sincere? No matter what I say, that's their impression. I'm sorry to hear that, but I need to get 20,000. And this is the best way I know how to do that. Can you pay the 20,000? No. Can you help me differently to get the 20,000? I will not put it on Facebook, but I felt Facebook is one way to do that. If you have a better way to do that, let me know. I'm more than happy to adapt that. You understand what I'm saying? So they put these doubts in your head. Move on like a train, as long as you're clear on heart. Yes, brother. You were saying something else. Okay, when you say express that intention, what does that mean? Okay, that's a promise. The intention doesn't have to be expressed, right? It doesn't have to be. Actually shouldn't. Right? The intention is in the heart, because that's what the Prophet ﷺ said. The intention is in the heart. He didn't say the intention we speak. That's a hadith in Sahih. So we don't express the intention. We express the intention in the sense that we're promising the person, we're coming to see your husband. And you're saying that something blocked you from getting there. Okay. Inshallah, the reward is there. The intention is there, and you were not able to do it. You did your part. Like, for example, you had the intention to go visit the brother in the hospital. You had guests. And then until it gets like, no, you guys cannot. I mean, you can. Actually, if this is not a good time for you to accept, that's a different story. The etiquettes, we have an etiquettes series at Al-Furqan. We'll discuss that. So the etiquettes of visitation. But if you had guests coming, you can accept your guests and cancel, and you get rewards, inshallah. If you are on the way and your car broke, and you don't want to take Uber, or you don't want to take taxi, so subhanAllah, Uber now is much easier to say than taxi. But that could be just me. Then you want to tend by the car because the car might be stolen or whatever the case might be, and you just couldn't let the car go, go of the car, and then you go to your visitation, and then you missed the visitation hour, or the brother or the sister left the hospital. Your intention is there. Your intention is there. The rewards are there. You get rewarded for that intention. Because that's the hadith the Prophet ﷺ said, the people got rewarded for their intention. So they migrated for getting married. They migrated for getting married, but they got rewarded with the marriage, not for the migration, because their migration was not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So your visitation, you're visiting, you're told the wife, I'm visiting the husband today at the hospital. That's a promise. From an intention point of view, you get the rewards. Now you need to call the wife and tell her, I got stuck. Because that is not really, have nothing to do with the intention, that's really managing the relationship. Because you don't want to disappoint someone you promised. Right? So that's how you would, So the rewards are done if you are not able, if you're sincere about doing something good and you were not able to, you were blocked from it, you get rewarded. If you intended to do something bad, and you didn't do it, you get rewarded. Good deal. Can't get a better deal than that. Now the scholars, there are two opinions. One opinion says that if you didn't do it because you kind of like had a self-realization and you made tawbah, you get rewarded. Another scholars, they said, even if something blocked you from fulfilling that sin or that bad thing, you still get rewarded. Because that thing that blocked you is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's how they see it. And I follow this second opinion personally, to be honest. If you intended to do something, like putting an ad in the Facebook for something that is good to bring money to needy or to help others, and then you stopped doing it, fearing that it might be perceived as hypocritical, because the opposite of sincerity is hypocrisy. So it might be perceived as not sincere. So let me repeat the example. If you were intending, or you are doing an action that is sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you stopped doing it to prevent yourself from being perceived doing it unsincerely, or doing it to show off, if you stop doing it for that, then that is hypocrisy. It's heavy. It's heavy, isn't it? So when you do something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you stop doing it because people might think that you're showing off, that is hypocrisy. Because remember what I said earlier, intention of sincerity is higher than what people think of you. People may misjudge you. Your relationship with Allah is clear. Keep moving. People sometimes like, should I pray sunnah in the masjid? Because people are watching me, I don't want them to think that I'm doing it for their sake. Why do you care? You are in the house of Allah. Why do you care what people say about you? This is a joke. Some scholar told us once. Someone was praying, and he was showing off. It was like very khushu', focusing on the salah, and every movement is correct. And two people were sitting in the masjid talking to each other. It was like, mashallah, this brother is praying very good. Then he looked at them in the middle of the salah. He looked at them and he said, I am fasting too. So that gives you an extreme example of unsincere. Any last comments or questions? There are a lot of things that I wanted to share with you, but subhanAllah, I went over time myself. Yes, brother. Yes, but Jazakallah khairan. Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is the question is that you are doing the sunnah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and these thoughts come up. Okay, these thoughts are coming from shaitan. There's no doubt about that. There's a type of shaitan that comes in the salah. So you protect yourself before the salah. You make the dua. You can recite, you can say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And the best form of saying A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim before the salah, if you guys want to remember it, is you say A'udhu billah as-sami' al-alim min ash-shaytanir rajim wa min hamzihi wa nafthihi wa nafthihi. This is the complete isti'adah. This is the best form of isti'adah. Okay? So you can say that. And if you don't know how to say it, inshallah I can write it for you, you can practice. That's the best way to protect yourself from shaitan in the salah. These thoughts do come, but we suppress them. That's called jihad. You are making jihad with the self during the salah. You are, being aware of it is excellent. I mean, some people have it and they're not even aware that they have these thoughts. But being aware that you're having these thoughts in the salah is very good, because that would help you address that situation. And you just address it. You can say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You can make tasbih. You can just recite the Quran a lot slower, and you're focusing on what you're saying instead of what you're thinking. So you can, deal with that. But these things, inshallah, by practice, by being aware when they come and how they come, they gradually go away, inshallah ta'ala. But the best way is you do that before the salah. You do, your wudu. Don't overdo the wudu. I mean, some people almost shower for the wudu, almost. And they blast the water, and I'm like 5 feet away from their faucet, I'm getting splashed. So I feel like I want to make wudu from the splash, and it should be enough. Wallahi, and I feel like, brother, we're suffering, from a lot of, for scarcity of water. Can you turn it down? Some of them, oh yeah, you're right. And some of them, they give me the look. So you make the, correct wudu. Take your time, say Bismillah in the wudu. Because these things, if they're not done right, it'll come, in the salah. It'll become weaker from the shaitan. So you're making the right intention, the wudu, say Bismillah and intend purity for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and have the wudu, complete wudu. The wudu can be once, washing the hands once, or twice, or 3 times. Right? Doesn't have to be 3 times. The Prophet ﷺ did it once, and it was okay. Because here's the thing, and I'm going sidetrack here, but it's really important. People they hear the mu'addin, or they hear the salah starting, but they're doing, it's like 1, 2, 3. They're missing a rak'ah by doing 3. They can, if they want to do 1 wash, 1 washing the mouth, 1 the nose, and they can still be counted as a complete wudu. So I just wanted to touch base on that, because I'm saying complete wudu. And they make the dua after the wudu. You know the dua after the wudu? Good. And then you stand, in the salah with the right intentions, make isti'adah. Billahi min shaitanir rajim. Some people even they go to as far as reciting Surah Al-Nas, but I don't have any evidence of that. I don't do that, and I don't encourage it. But it's just sufficient to say isti'adah and make the dua al-istiftah. Rabbi fili, or you can say that, Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna dhunubi kama ba'adta bayna al-mashriq wal-maghrib, something of that sort. There are several options on that. And then you make the salah. If you did all that, and you still have these thoughts, just deal with them by addressing them, making isti'adah or tasbih, or reciting slowly. Sometimes that helps. I hope I answered that question. Okay. Another question? Yeah. Yeah, shaitan comes. Just as long as you're clear on your intentions, just focus on that. Shaitan always wants to get us in trouble, subhanAllah. Any other questions or thoughts? Yes, brother. Riya or? Oh, okay. Okay. That's terrific. That's really, really good. Jazakallah khair. That's awesome. That's how you handle it. And always seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't rely on ourselves to remove these things. We always ask help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Recognizing it, doing something about it is excellent. And we seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see, many people, when they have a hardship, or they go through a hardship, they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get rid of that hardship. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Also, what we can do, in addition to that, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach us how to handle this hardship, how to become better at this hardship, how to, to teach us how not to get into this hardship again. Right? So we don't focus on getting rid of the problem, but also we seek help to be better in handling these kind of situations that we're in. Could be wiswas, it's called wiswas. It could be other things that we do. Jazakallah khair for the share, it's excellent. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? How many people found today they learned new things? Some of us. How many people found that it's a good refresher, good reminder? MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. So that's really good. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and give us the knowledge that is beneficial and benefit us with the knowledge that we learned. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in knowledge. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.